Hello everyone and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast. This week we will be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 14th to Thursday the 17th of March 2022. Now, regular listeners and viewers will already have realised something's amiss. Something's a bit odd here. Rob doesn't usually start these podcasts off, and there is a very good reason for that. Because this week, if you follow Alex on social media, you will be aware that he's become rather unwell this week. He has, in fact, contracted that evil little thing that's still going around, unfortunately, COVID. And we're going to cut to Alex now, who is with us this week. Don't worry, nothing's changed there. But we're going to cut to Alex this week, and you will see that it's my duty as his friend to make this week as easy for him as possible. So, hello, Alex.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Oh, Alex, how are you?
Hi. See, I'm already messed up. I'm fine. Before we started our recording just now, I said to Rob that I have brain farts all over the place. Like, I'm constantly, like, I start something and then I'm like, what am I doing? And literally, as you were going through the bit at the beginning, I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? So yeah. So people who want to see what is this world I live in? So if people want to see what potentially could be quite show this week, then
quite disturbing.
Buckle in because you're in for a ride. It's quite disturbing.
I mean, I can say,
yeah, I've not been well.
No, all I can say is it's nice for me to be the good-looking one as out of the two of us this week. To be fair, I mean, COVID is, COVID is still going around, obviously, and poor Alex has got it. Now, I had it ages ago now, before we even came onto video, I had COVID, but I had the original. That first kind of trendsetter.
The OG.
Alex has got some sort of cheap imitation of it, one of these variants. But actually, you've got it a lot worse than I had it, haven't you? Because mine kind of just felt like a bad cold, and I pushed it for all it was worth when we did the podcast and made it seem as though I was being really brave for kind of pushing through it. Well, I didn't feel that bad. You, however, genuinely deserve a knighthood for how utterly crap you feel this week. So we're going to crack on and get this done for Alex as soon as we possibly can, and hope that nothing goes wrong, so that he can go back to bed as soon as we can. So send all the love and sympathy that you possibly can in the comment section. All right. So Alex, let's get started.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get going. So yeah, let's first of all start off by saying that it's been great for Aftermath on EastEnders this week. Something that I never thought we'd see the day ever again. But yes, Aftermath overload this week. And it starts off with Chelsea, who's decided that she no longer wants any kind of attachment to Gray after overhearing a conversation between Denise and Kim and Patrick about them wondering why she didn't spot the signs to begin with, and kind of not blaming Chelsea, but kind of saying that perhaps there was something that she could have done more with. But Patrick took Chelsea to one side and said to her that, you don't need to listen to the hearsay, you just need to do what you want to do. And on that advice, Chelsea reveals to Whitney this week that she wants to give Jordan up for adoption. I mean, poor old Chelsea. She just wants a clean break from this whole thing, doesn't she? This has really hurt her badly that she's been embroiled in this awful situation.
Yes, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what her thinking is with this, because she's going to wait until Jordan is kind of well and out of hospital, and then put him up for adoption. And at the moment, Whitney is the only person that's aware of this. I find it's never good to tell Whitney a secret. Things never stay secret for long when Whitney knows about them, because she will do something. She will do something to get herself kind of wildly involved with things. So, I mean, I have to say, it sort of feels like this isn't something that is going to actually happen. I'll be honest. It feels like you can sort of understand sort of Chelsea's knee-jerk reaction to all of this, but I think when it comes to it, especially once Denise finds out and starts bringing up Raymond and the fact that she did this and instantly regretted it, and it's a relief to her that Raymond is now back in her life. So I feel that once Chelsea actually gets to the point where she is going to start putting Jordan up for adoption, that she's going to kind of back down on it. What do you think?
Yeah, this is what I thought too. I thought that Denise is going to have some kind of reflection. I mean, Denise is life seems to be carrying itself out again with Chelsea at the moment, doesn't it? It's like everything that Denise had happen to her is now happening to Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that got me excited was the potential storylines of Jordan in 18 years' time, which kind of thought, wow, this is foreshadowing in the big time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with Jordan. But in the short term, I think Denise, although almost doesn't have a place to say anything about it, will have something to say about it, and will probably encourage her daughter to kind of keep hold of the baby, keep hold of Jordan. Especially since, who's named after Jordan in the first place, the son.
Well, exactly.
That Denise never knew, had. So it's a sad situation, really, that Chelsea feels like she's kind of trapped. Then she feels like she can no longer maybe love Jordan anymore, or that she does love Jordan so much that she feels like this isn't an environment that he needs to be brought up in any longer. So yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think that's going to unravel itself piece by piece as the weeks go on. It's just I don't know. I just don't know what advice Denise can really give her, because I just think that Denise did do it ultimately, and it was only a few years later and only in a panic situation that she then decided to bring her son back to her, Raymond back to her, and it's almost she did it out of spite so Phil wouldn't do it. It's like,
well, yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of blame going around this week. Chelsea blames herself. Every single one of the Taylors blames themselves. There's a lot of people basically saying, oh, we should have noticed what was going on with Gray. And, we as the viewers go, yes, you bloody should have done, because then we wouldn't have to have gone through all of this trauma that we had to the past year. I just can't believe the amount. I mean, me and you, very sort of cynically last week, were kind of like, yes, well, that'll be it, won't it? Like, we might get one episode. And when Monday came around, Monday was sort of aftermath kind of everywhere, wasn't it? Because everybody was talking about Gray all over the place. Even characters had nothing to do with it. It was as if something quite shocking and disturbing had happened within this small community. And as would happen, everyone was talking about it, from people in the pub to the kids on their way to school. It felt very realistic. But we also kind of thought, right, well, yeah, fair enough, that'll be it. And it wasn't it. Because by the time Thursday's episode came along, we were still talking about Gray. It's as if they kind of looked at us, watched us kind of taking the mick out of them about Aftermath, and went, right then, you are Aftermath bitches, you're gonna get Aftermath. And literally gave us an entire week of it. Yeah, so... Alex. Yes, so I have to say I was quite impressed by it all this week. I did enjoy it. Obviously this whole thing with Chelsea, I mean, like I say, she's feeling shocked about it. Do you think she's going to stay in Gray's house, or do you think she's going to move back in with Denise? Because obviously Gray's now gone and out the picture, and we've just got this one house that Gray was living in with Chantal and then Chelsea. Which Martin has now put a couple of bricks through when he found out about Gray's involvement in Cush's death, which I quite liked. Can't say I blamed him for that. But do you think that Chelsea is going to stay in the house, or is she going to move back in with Denise?
I mean, it's a big house to be rattling around on her own in, isn't it? So I wonder if perhaps she'll move in back to the old B&B, or whether Denise and the family will actually move over to the house themselves. Perhaps there'll be a story a little bit later down the line because, Denise's money problems seem to go up and down like a roller coaster. One minute she's doing really well in the salon. The next minute she's doing really badly. So perhaps she'll need to sell up again. Because maybe Cherie will sell up from under their noses. Who knows, so they all end up in like number 1 Albert Square themselves. Because Cherie was mentioned again this week, wasn't she, by Isaac? Isaac kind of said, I talked about his mum and how... So I mean, I feel like Cherie's not quite out the picture just yet. We're going to see more of her at some point. But I mean, it's such a shame because the number 1 Albert Square is such a big, like, kind of iconic set piece in the square. It kind of looks over the whole square. So whoever lives on it, it's almost the second down the run from living in the Queen Vic, because the Queen Vic views the whole of the set, while the number 1 is kind of like the only thing obstructing it is the Queen Vic itself. So I feel like it's an important place for a family to live in, which makes me think perhaps, and I said this last week, maybe a new family is on the way, and maybe they're the ones who are going to end up buying number 1 Albert Square.
Maybe, fingers crossed. Because I agree with you. It would be a shame to waste that house. Yeah.
I think so. You saying about like our reservations of how much aftermath they would get, but now we're getting a lot more, and that is obviously the cat and Tommy and Isaac, because with their story is still carrying on as well. Because with Tommy and at school, Isaac had got in touch with Kat and said that, you know, he's not doing as well as he could do, his potential. Lily has spotted that he's hiding a knife in his bag, and Kat is still spotted, has been blaming him for stealing the money still at the cab office, because Tommy is still getting bullied at school, and Tommy feels like his last resort is obviously violence. I mean, quite a tricky time for Tommy right now on the square.
Yeah, I mean, you say knife. It was more like a machete, wasn't it? The size of that thing that he put into his bag. It was huge. It was like a sword. Of course, the problem is that Tommy is kind of trying to sort of speak out, but he's also doing that thing that kids do, which is trying not to tell anybody. Phil's got into his head, as we knew that he would, because Phil has already kind of installed the "you can't be a grass" seed in his head, so he's not telling anybody about this. Not telling anybody about the fact that these two kids are giving him aggro and demanding money off him and all that kind of thing. You realise that one of the kids is called Sid. I'd love to know if there are any sort of Sids like at that age genuinely around at the moment. I can't imagine that anybody within the past 25 years has been christened Sid. You know, apart from girls, it's maybe Sydney is quite a trendy girl's name, isn't it? But SID for Sid for a boy, I can't say Sydney. I can't say that that I've come across that often, but there we are. So yes, Tommy's put this knife in his bag, and at some point, I think he's planning on using it more as a defensive measure rather than kind of, you know, rushing into an English literature class going, "Ah!" I don't think he's planning on doing that, but clearly his idea is that if these two lads start on him, he's going to basically just go all Phil Mitchell on their arse and maybe sort of bang it against floors, maybe discover another dead body underneath the floor, because that's what you do when you're defending yourself against bullies. However, I have a horrible feeling that it's not going to stay just as a knife, because obviously. Well, we'll move on to the other thing. We'll move on to the other thing in a moment. Obviously, the other thing that's going on with Tommy's story at the moment is everything that's going on with Jean. Now, we did say a few weeks back that we were kind of hoping that this wasn't going to be another medical storyline for Jean, that maybe it was, well, I thought maybe it was Stacey that we should be worried about. Clearly nothing as subtle as that is going on. It's genuinely Jean that we should be worried about, because Jean seems to be heading into a sort of new mania phase. She is doing all sorts of strange things, like she seemed to quite like the thrill of getting away with stealing Kat's money this week. As in, like, she kind of dodged around the accusations and was almost seemed to be quite enjoying the thrill of watching Tommy take the blame for it, as opposed to taking the blame herself, and sort of manipulated the situation in little ways, which felt very unlike Jean, which suggests that she really is in some sort of mania phase. So, I mean,
yeah,
Jean stealing isn't a new thing, is it? Like, we've had Jean kind of swiping things for quite a while. Do we compliment them enough to say, like, this has been in the pipeline for months and months and months? Because if you think about it, it goes all the way back to when Sharon and her became best mates for an episode and stole some stuff from the Suki Mart. And then she quite liked swiping some towels from Suki's house when they went to use the shower when the water wasn't off in the old Slater house. And we've seen Jean sort of taking things here and there over the past few months. So are we led to believe that we're heading into some sort of kleptomania type thing with Jean that's going to be mixed in with her bipolar?
I think it's funny that that you have credited them for their subtlety of the fact that, like, 2 years ago when Sharon stole chocolates with Jean and they ate them publicly in the Queen Vic, that was always the story that they were heading down now with the Monroes and Harvey. I mean, that's if it was always the path, then I tell you what, I credit them, especially since they took a year-long storyline for whether Jean had cancer or not. And we discovered it as a passing comment. So yeah, maybe they always have like these long-term stories for Jean. Maybe they just like doing like these Jean seeds every now and then. you said that this feels like it's a bit unlike Jean. You must remember when Jean was first introduced into the soap, when Stacey went to visit her mum, and she was went to the council estate, and you saw Jean kind of walking along, and lots of the young people, youths on the council estate, were kind of like shouting at the window, saying, "Oh, it's the mad woman of whatever street they were living on." Jean was a very, very horrible, mean-spirited woman, and she was quite cruel to Stacey. So the fact, and obviously that was where she was off her meds, and so the fact that she's doing it to Tommy, for me, doesn't feel like out of character at all. I know the last time she had her kind of mania, like when she went off her meds, she went off onto the caravan, she started smoking, but she was never particularly cruel to anyone, and so I think a lot of people kind of forget that, you know, when Jean wants to be, she can be very nasty. Plus, we've also had a small period of the Be More Jean era, let's just call it, where she's kind of been very positive, and she's always looking for the good in people, but she's also trying to make sure that, you know, she's progressively, you know, getting what she wants out of life. And so that might have skewed kind of like people's opinion on Jean as well. So for me, what she's doing to Tommy is cruel and manipulative and almost in character for Jean, for how I remembered her when she was way back in the early 2000s when she was first brought into the show. I just think that Jean needs a friend, and I think that it's unfortunate that Shirley has been preoccupied, for lack of a better term.
She's a bit distracted at the moment, in fairness, Shirley, isn't she?
She's not that she's not been able to kind of look after Jean the best that she was able to, and so I think that's kind of, you know, for the best will of Stacey trying, I think that Jean almost feels too mollycoddled by Stacey. And so unfortunately, whatever Stacey says is kind of being fallen on deaf ears. But I am excited about what they're doing with Jean, because I love Jean as a character anyway.
Yes.
And it also brings out Tommy as such a competent little actor as well, and such a great little character. Yeah. And with Lily as well, I just love their scenes together, and it makes me really excited about, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years time with the relationship between Lily and Tommy in the future, where that could be heading, because clearly Lily has a lot of affection for Tommy and doesn't want Tommy to get himself into trouble by carrying around that knife. And we'll talk more about Tommy's story and Phil's involvement straight after this message from our sponsor.
Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning in your pants. And trust me, your confidence will be blooming like the flowers this upcoming spring. Time to clear out that winter bush and join the other 4 million men who trust Manscaped. Use the code Walford to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Manscaped are the global leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming and have forever changed the grooming game with their amazing Performance Package 4.0. Inside this ball care bundle, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0, ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is a pube assassin that is waterproof and equipped with an LED light, so you bet it's a major key to the new shower routine. The Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose and ear holes. And why not complete your grooming game this spring with a new refined cologne signature scent by Manscaped. This stuff is legit and will have you smelling like royalty. And if you purchase now, you will receive 2 free gifts, the Performance Boxer Briefs and Shed Travel Bag. So smell and feel good this spring with 20% off and free shipping with the code Walford at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Walford, WALFORD, at manscaped.com. Time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life.
Hello and welcome back, and as promised we're going to continue the Tommy and Kat story. As Rob had said earlier, there was more to Tommy carrying the knife in his bag than meets the eye, because obviously Kat received a package this week, courtesy of Phil, from some of his inmates that he's been spending time with in prison. And inside that said package was a gun that Kat had hidden. Now, you said, Rob, that you feel like perhaps that has something to do with Tommy's bullying story arc.
Yes, well, yes. The thing is, obviously, Kat was trying to put this gun in the safe and couldn't work out the safe combination for whatever reason. And so decided to, it was just, the phrase, Chekhov's gun, Alex. It's an old term that basically implies, it's an old sort of writing term that basically implies if you put a loaded gun in sight of an audience, or a gun in any case in sight of an audience when you're watching a drama, you know full well that gun is going to be fired. EastEnders is very good at using this technique. We tend to have, like last week, for example, with the grey stuff, we definitely had Chekhov's bat, we had Chekhov's knife, we had any sort of weapon that is there, ready to be used, we know it's going to be used. And the fact that Kat has not only put this gun in the cupboard under the stairs, but the fact that the cupboard under the stair door, for some bizarre reason, now won't close. Like, she keeps trying to open it, and then it just kind of swings open again. So Tommy is obviously going to find this gun, isn't he? And he's going to think, oh, screw a knife, I've got a gun now, they're definitely not going to mess with me now. So, yeah, I think this is probably where it's going. What I love about this whole thing is the fact that it's so typical of us to, like, kind of get just a little glimpse into Phil's sort of lifestyle, that whatever is going on with him in prison, he's talking to people, and for some strange reason he needs to get a gun delivered to his house. This is so typical of, like, Phil's gangster lifestyle that we never really know what he's up to at any stage. It's like whenever he sends Shirley off to Spain to go and deal with people. We have no idea what business she is doing. We don't know who she's meeting. It just sort of works whenever anybody needs a break. I'm just off to deal with some business, alright? Don't ask me any questions about it, but I'm off to deal with business. I'll see you later. Bye. So this is kind of like another case of that. So I doubt we're ever going to know why this gun is suddenly in Kat's possession. It just is because Phil needs it to be because of business purposes. So yes, this gun arrives at the package arrives. And Kat immediately is kind of like, well, I don't want that package. I've no interest in what's in it. Don't tell me what's in it. I don't want to know it. And then the delivery man comes back again after she has spoken to Phil in prison. And Phil basically says, look, if you want to make my life any easier in here, then just take that package. You don't have to do anything with it. Just just hide it, and I'll deal with it. We'll deal with it later. And then the delivery man comes back, and Kat keeps saying, I don't want to know what's in it. I don't want to know what's in it. And then she gets given the package and immediately opens it to find out what's in it. And then sees that it's a gun, and then puts it in this cupboard under the stairs. Little sort of sidestep with this story, by the way, is Ben. Now, Ben, because I think it's linked more with this story than anything else, really, isn't it? And Ben seems to be kind of in, for want of a better phrase, in bender mode, doesn't he? Like he kind of is going on. I meant drinks and all that kind of thing. But he seems to be kind of spending a lot of time out. Suki mentions to him that he's not really been opening the arches up. So, I mean, like I say, it didn't really go into the spotlight in any of the stories this week, so maybe it's best to talk about it here. But what do you think is going on with Ben at the moment? Is he still sort of suffering from everything we had with him a few weeks ago? And is this sort of like a follow-on from that? What's going on with him, do you think?
I think it's just his depression, isn't it? He's kind of going through a real bad time of it at the moment. And his solution to it is to drink heavily, go out, and seemingly not spending any time with Callum, which seems to be fine by Callum. Callum doesn't seem to have much of a care for Ben's welfare right now, doesn't he?
Callum's all right with it.
We saw Callum twice this week, and on both occasions there wasn't even a mention of like, oh, how's Ben? Or, I've got other problems at the moment with Ben. Not once was it mentioned. So I did think it was not like, bothered. Poor Ben, he's like... No, not even the love of his life.
No wonder he's out drinking. I mean, my husband cares.
Well, exactly. His own husband doesn't give a damn. I mean, Ben's kind of deliberately distancing himself from the involvement of whatever Kat and Phil's been getting up to. Probably out of spite more than anything else, but also because he feels he's just kind of been pushed out. So why should he care? I mean, I think, is it going to be a case of like, as soon as things get a little bit too heavy with Kat, Ben has to step in, and so then Ben feels like he's got a purpose, and that will then snap him out of his spiraling depression. Do you not think that probably end up being the story, won't it? And the other thing is that we were talking about Phil in prison, is that I was thinking to myself, isn't Phil meant to be like this kind of like head honcho, like this kind of king of everything? So I just had this impression that when he got to prison, he would be like the top dog. But now we're learning that actually he's quite a few rungs down the ladder. So like he doesn't have the power or the kind of the push that kind of Albert Square lead us to believe.
Yeah. Well, I've got kind of two thoughts about Phil in prison at the moment. Number one, as you quite rightly say, is kind of what is Phil's status in there at the moment? Because you'll remember when Cush was on his way to prison, Phil's advice to him immediately was to go in there, beat up a weak person, and then you'll be absolutely fine. So it seems that Phil's methods of being in prison haven't worked out great for him so far. My other thought was, and I know for a fact that we're not even gonna mention, this isn't even gonna be mentioned, but my other kind of thinking is the fact that not only is Phil in prison at the moment, but Gray's in prison and Aaron's in prison. So I kind of wonder, like, have they all been sent to different prisons? Like, how many prisons are there around Walford? I mean, as London, there must be. And Lucas as well. Yeah. I'm assuming, it's London. I'm assuming there's definitely going to be more than one prison, I would guess. But it seems like I would quite like to have had a couple of scenes with maybe Phil in prison with somebody, even if it's just Aaron, who I would presume is kind of returning at some point. It would have been nice to sort of kind of see, because it seems to be like the men of Walford get sent to prison or die. So it would have been, I don't know, maybe it would have been nice to sort of see Phil in prison with somebody, but there you go. Yes, so Tommy, I do think is going to get hold of this gun. And it's all gonna go horribly wrong for Tommy, I think. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's gonna go all the way. Maybe Lily will step in just in time to stop him doing anything stupid. Because Tommy is, kind of trying to make up for things that he hasn't even done this week, and he goes to Billy and says, "Look, I'll be your apprentice. I will pay back this money to my mum that I didn't even steal in the first place." Because he's trying to defend Jean as well. I think Tommy's got a sensible head on his shoulders for the most part. I think when it comes to family matters, and I think he seems to feel that something is wrong with Jean. And he's going to keep quiet about Jean. He doesn't want Jean to get into trouble for whatever reason. So he's going to try and work with Billy and kind of pay back the money that Kat has had taken from her at some point. I don't know. In all honesty, I don't know how long it's going to take to be on Billy Mitchell's stall to be able to earn, I think, close to the 500 quid or whatever is how much Jean, how much money can Billy make on that stall, really? Selling the odd vase to a passerby. There's nothing. The most expensive thing that Billy's ever had in that stall is that, album that he got for Janet that soon got wrecked by Kat. So I don't know how long Tommy can have to be wearing this little flat cap for. Yeah, exactly. So, God knows about that.
I know, I did like that Billy turned Tommy into like a little mini-me of him, and he had that little flat cap.
Yes.
And he had that big wheeler dealer jacket on, because Billy really is like what he sees as like an own. Yeah, that's what I mean. He's obviously watched too many Only Fools and Horses box sets, and he's decided that that's what he should look like if he's dealing on the market. But yeah, Billy's tat store.
Billy was doing during lockdown.
It amazes me that anyone makes a living wage working on the market, to be perfectly honest with you. Like Martin's fruit and veg store. It's like smaller than... It's like this small little cart, and he seems to make quite a good wage from it.
How much fruit and veg really does get pushed around Walford?
You should upgrade to like one of those produce aisles you see in like some Morrison's, where they have like the spray of water constantly kind of floating above them so they can stay fresh. Upgrade, Martin. Get yourself sorted out.
Yes.
Another family that have found themselves wallowing this week have been the Carters. They want to get on with things as normal. Shirley's determined that she doesn't want to, because she feels like that they're kind of forgetting Tina if they just carry on. And poor Shirley's carried on drinking as well. She's like, I'm surprised they have any stock left in that Vic, because the fact that she's just kind of torn that place apart for alcohol. But bless Zack. Zack saw that Shirley is grieving really heavily. She wanted some answers, because her whole stick was that she felt like that Tina had died upset and alone, and that she was, in pain. So Zack went to Callum and asked Callum if he can get some information for the police database. Any new watchers for the show probably didn't even know that Callum is a police officer. Yeah, but yeah, he kind of jumped in and said, "Yeah, I'll do it, not a problem." And
I'll do that.
And was able to comfort Shirley with the information. I mean, it was lovely again to see that Zack Zack is kind of like the saviour, isn't he, of the Carters?
Yeah.
He's really fitted in really nicely with Nancy. He's kind of made up the faults he had with Mick, and now he's made it up with Shirley as well by kind of like helping her up, finding out about Tina as well. So it's nice to see Zack kind of getting involved again in that way.
I know, I love him. He's great, and I like the fact that him and Nancy are sort of, because Zack, like you say, he's basically trying to just keep everyone's head above water at the Vic at the moment. He is one of those useful sort of bystanders that's looking at an entire family going through horrific amounts of grief, and is trying to help them. Unlike Miss Butcher, who is in a similar position with the fact that she is a bystander for the family and seems to have like a personal connection to one of the members of said family. But unfortunately, unlike Zack, Janine is trying to basically do this for her own gain. Now, she takes Mick out. So now we had a nice little bit of location filming this week with Janine and Mick. I quite liked this little lake area that they went to. That was nice. Got the drone out again. We had like a nice little overview of like this really nice picturesque little nature reserve or wherever they went to. And there was quite a nice scene where Janine was sort of talking to Mick. I mean, I say that she's doing this for her own gain. Of course she is, because it's Janine. But there did seem to be some sort of genuine empathy there as well, where she was talking about, well, you know, yeah, I've lost people too. We went for a nice little list of the people that Janine's lost. We got a nice Pat mention, because Janine's relationship with Pat has sort of been a bit this way and that since she returned. Sometimes we get some really nice genuine moments about it, and other times that Janine is a little bit sort of almost despondent about Pat. So it's nice to know that she officially sees, because obviously Janine and Pat kind of put all their ghosts to rest before Pat died. So it's nice that Janine officially sort of considers Pat to be someone that she's lost. That's nice. But she mentioned Pat, she mentioned her dad, she mentioned Lydia, her gran. That was a nice little throwback. I didn't expect Lydia to be mentioned. And she kind of basically tells Mick to kind of let out his frustrations and to scream into a lake because it'll help him. And Mick does exactly that and kind of screams into this thing. I've done this, to be fair. It does work. I've like gone through some stuff and gone to like a remote hillside and just like gone, ah! A little bit more high pitched than Mick probably managed it, I expect. But it does work, and it does kind of like, it does help. But all this leads to Mick and Janine officially sharing a kiss, which you could sort of see it coming a mile off, couldn't you? Janine had finally got a vulnerable Mick on his own, because grief, I swear to God, in Walford, grief is an aphrodisiac. Grief just makes people horny. And Janine managed to get Mick in a vulnerable place, and Mick instigated it, in all fairness, and sort of pulled Janine in for this kiss, which looked like the most awkward kiss ever, because Janine was sort of like not really that much into it, but then at the same time said, look, none of us are, this isn't the best time for us to do this. Let's wait a minute until you're a bit better. However, Michael, excellent kisser. I fail to see how she could have garnered Mick's kissing skills from that. She didn't even get any tongue. There is no way that you can ascertain how good someone a kisser is from a little 3-second brush of the lips. No. I'm sorry. No, it's my view. So, but there you go.
Absolute
so
nonsense.
Janine and Mick. Yes, but Janine and Mick, what do you think? This seems to be officially happening now. I mean, in fairness, Janine's not really doing anything wrong, because he's signed his divorce papers,
really?
So technically Mick's a single man now.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really for kind of fans to Mick and Linda to kick off about, because it's not like Mick's having an affair. That hasn't happened. And to be fair to the writers, they managed to keep Mick's pants on whilst he was officially still with Linda. So it's all above board. So where do you think this is going now? I mean, obviously, Linda's return is on the horizon, because Kelly Bright will have had her baby and will be returning very soon, we understand. So, where is this going?
Well, I mean, the writing on the wall has always been there for Mick and Linda for, I would say, the very least, for at least a year or something like that. As soon as she slept with Max, let's be honest, there was never going to be a Mick and Linda reunion that was ever going to play out well for anyone. So, be honest, I'm not one of those fans that believe that Mick and Linda should have been together forever. Yes, it's sad. Yes, it's disappointing. I think for the actors as well, for Danny Dyer specifically, I think it felt a bit disappointing that they ended up splitting up Mick and Linda. but it's happened, and like you say, I think what Janine and Mick did was fine. They consented, they kissed, and Mick's not really with Linda anymore. As you say, though, the effects will be when Mick sees Linda again, because at the moment Linda's not in his life anymore. We know that Linda is back, and I'm sorry if this is a spoiler for anyone, but the photos have been leaked that Linda is coming back for the funeral of Tina. So we know that there's going to be big scenes happening there. And I wonder if that will be... that might be the final nail in the coffin, that Mick will then kind of open up, or even Janine will say that, they kissed in front, and Linda will find out, and Linda will be, kind of like, oh, fine, give me the bottle and carry on.
Well, yeah, what I personally wonder, you say that the sort of catalyst will be Mick and Linda coming face to face again. To be honest, I think what's going to happen is that Janine is going to become tantalisingly close to officially getting with Mick, going all the way up to the funeral where, she is the caricature of the perfect girlfriend and supporting him and stand there with him on her arm, basically having got what she wants. And then Linda is going to walk through the door, because the last time that Linda and Janine met, Janine was going under a completely different persona. She was Judith Bernstein that time.
I did wonder if...
So,
yes.
I think what's going to happen... What I think what's going to happen is that... Yeah, no, this is what I think is going to happen, is that Linda will return for Tina's funeral and see Janine there, and all hell will break loose, and I think Janine will end up getting pushed away, and maybe not necessarily Mick and Linda getting back together, but I think Mick will see what Janine was doing that time, because obviously Janine had the evidence, the photo evidence of Linda drinking, and gave him some cock and ball story about how she got hold of his pictures, and then it will take is Linda to say, well, she wasn't even saying her name was Janine, and then it'll all sort of snowball into not a very nice time for Janine. That's my prediction, but I am looking forward to it, because it's going to be some cracking scenes. I think I can't wait for Kelly Bright to come back.
Oh no, that is quite exciting to see, because obviously the photos that have come out have pretty much just been of Kelly Bright kind of being drunk,
having a great time.
So what happens at the funeral? Yeah, having a wonderful time. So what happens at the funeral? We don't know. We don't even know if Zaza comes back, because that would be cool too. Zaza should return. Build up the Carters a little bit before Mick's exit. So I wonder if that might be something that'll be considered. But I mean, that could be the exit, that Mick and Linda decide to give it another try. But off the square, and so Mick then leaves the square in that way, because for too long we've kind of been talking about, then basically Mick leaving without Linda, but perhaps it will just be the case that they do leave together, and so then Kelly Bright doesn't come back to the show either. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, in fun scenes ahead at Tina's funeral, if that such a thing could be said. A little story this week was that Stuart returned from his month-long trip at the commune, where he decided 2 months, and he'd been taking green pills that turned his wee blue, or something along those lines that Sonia had said. Concerning Rainie, because Stuart is adamant now that the cancer is gone. He's done a bit of Reiki and meditation and dancing in a flower bed and all kinds of stuff, and that's basically reduced his cancer to something that doesn't exist anymore. Rainie, who has an ounce of common sense, has realised that this kind of Facebook medical cure isn't going to actually cut it, and so has gone to Sonia for advice to what she can do next. And Sonia said, well, you can't do anything without Stuart's consent. So Rainie is now, and Callum are now desperately trying to convince Stuart that he still needs to go to the hospital, and he still needs to get himself looked at and operated on so the cancer can be removed, using the fact that they have baby Abby and their own child, that Bernie, because Bernie's coming back too very soon, so we're reliably informed. And so, they need to think about their life together. I know we've said that they're not going to take the road where Stuart is going to die, but I don't know. I still feel like that there's still potential there on the table. How do you think then? What do you think about this story and everything that's kind of happened?
I sort of feel that Stuart's too popular in terms, because Stuart's quite a popular character, and Rainie and Stuart are a very, very popular couple. So I feel that it would be a bit of a dumb decision to kill Stuart off, if I'm honest, with cancer. I don't know. Personally, what I think this storyline is more exploring is, and I hope they don't go away from, the whole issue of male breast cancer, because that's actually quite an important sort of message to get out. I know they've sort of done the initial sort of things of, explaining to viewers that men can get breast cancer, but I hope they don't kind of lose that initial message. And then the other side of it, of course, is the fact that Stuart is worried about the operation. He's worried about the medication that he's going to have to go on because of his addictions and Rainie's addictions. So he doesn't want to kind of put either of them at risk. And so he's going down this whole sort of healing process, which it's not going to do him any favours. And I think that where it might go is that once this new baby arrives on the scene for them, I think it's going to be enough for Rainie to say, look, this is your child. If you want to be part of this child's life, then you will go and have this operation. Otherwise, get out and die. Essentially, is what I think is what she's going to say to him. Because, well, no, I think that will be the, sort of Rainie's blunt message, basically, won't it? I have to say, it was nice to see Rainie again. I mean, I know Stuart's been on a break or whatever, but Rainie, honestly, has barely been in it for months, has she? So I've missed Rainie. So I'm glad that I'm glad that they've sort of returned to this, because the highways have not really been in it very much recently. Where it goes, I don't know. I feel that, there might be a Vi return on the horizon as well, I think. I wouldn't mind kind of seeing Vi come back. And the thing is, I know I'm very much in the minority with sort of Vi, because I champion the character and I champion Gwen Taylor, and I think that she could be something brilliant as long as she's allowed to be something brilliant. So I would quite like Vi to come back and sort of give us the performance that we know the character can, give us the character that we know we can get from her. So that would be my preference with it.
Yeah.
And I think that Vi could potentially kind of slap Stuart around the head and tell him to get a grip and basically drag him to the hospital. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a journey for them, I think. There is a lot to come for the highways, once Bernie returns, because Bernie must be like ready to drop at any minute now, wasn't she? And they're surely not going to just have Bernie come back with baby. It must be, and they're surely not going to have Bernie just return with the baby and go, there you are, goodbye. They're going to, surely they've got to have, have Bernie come back and have some sort of dramatic childbirth, haven't they? Surely, lock her in a lift or something. You can't just have a normal childbirth in EastEnders. There's something traumatic has to happen in order to kind of bring the pregnancy on. So I'd be very surprised if Bernie just returns with a child in a pram and just hands it over. So something's going to happen there. And so they've got all of that to happen, because I am kind of fascinated to see how Rainie and Stuart, these two quite mad characters in their own right, kind of cope with parenthood. I'd really quite like to see like how they, and it'll bring another side to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of points I want to actually pick up on. You said the first one, the Vi thing. I mean, I welcome a character like Vi to come back, but I do think they need to just have a bit of a shuffle with the way they write her character. I think that she became so one-dimensional that perhaps that when they gave her a story, which was, could have been interesting, it kind of just fell flat because people couldn't relate themselves to Vi. I think if they bring back the character of Vi, they need to kind of maybe rewrite her a little bit. And I know I'm always complaining about rewrites for characters on the show, but I think in Vi's case, it's quite a feasible request because she's only been on for like a few months. So it's easy for her to kind of become a little bit different. Them being parents, Rainie and Stuart, again, I think it would be a great story, but I can't help but think it would be a very short-lived kind of plot, because which makes me wonder what they're going to do with the whole kind of Bernie bringing the child back, because I think there's potential there for some kind of like escapades with Rainie and Stuart, but like how it's a bit like Barry, when Barry and Natalie had a child and Barry almost reverted back to becoming a child, and there was that story where Natalie kind of fell out of love with Barry because she saw that Barry wasn't the man that she thought he was. I wonder if they would do something maybe around a big overgrown child. So I wonder if they could maybe do something along those lines, but then they'd have to fix up the story with Stuart. The only reason I kind of say the story with Stuart would be interesting, or I think they may be going down the route of him dying, is just because I don't know, just because I think that would be a way, because I just don't think that Rainie ever is happy, and whenever she's in a relationship, it never lasts very long for her. And I just think that like Rainie and Stuart have been happy for too long, and I don't think that they want Rainie to be happy for too long, because Rainie's forever kind of going from one mistake to the next. And although Stuart's not been a mistake for her, unfortunately, I just think that this could be potentially, if they're going to take Rainie down the kind of like the straight and narrow route, then unfortunately they're going to find a way of kind of the Ronnie effect almost, that like Ronnie could never be happy on EastEnders.
Yeah.
Rainie's the kind of same thing. You know what I mean? So that's
I
the
agree.
But that doesn't mean I want him to die, to be fair. I do like Stuart.
I agree. I do agree with what you say there, but my other thought on that actually is, because sort of Parenthood will almost force these two quite zany characters into a sort of slice of normality. And would that, do you think, take away from Stuart and Rainie as characters and as a pairing? Because together they're mad. You know, this is a couple that, you know, when Rainie thought that Stuart had murdered D.I. Gaffney, she immediately pushed him into the bedroom and began ripping his clothes off because the idea just turned her on that much. So This is the sort of like kind of level of madness that we're dealing with these two characters. So do you think that like Parenthood would take away from that and almost sort of diminish their uniqueness as characters?
That's what I mean. I think that, you've pretty much summed up how I feel. Like, I think that they can only do kind of like a Parenthood story with them for so long before it becomes like almost, it doesn't work. Yeah, and mundane for them, exactly. So I mean, I can't think of a potential story around it though at the moment, because we know Bernie's coming back. Am I wrong, or is there rumours around that Ricky Champ has mentioned that he might be leaving the show? I'm sure I saw something on Twitter last week.
Well, yes. Now, what this is, there was a little tweet. Someone did one of these little sort of picture collage tweets saying basically who has left this year. And Ricky Champ tweeted and said, "So far, ... and then deleted it. So we bear in mind we have got a new producer on the horizon. And he may be an Axeman, he may not be an Axeman. It's a variable that Clenners may be waving his axe around at the moment to sort of cut through the vines as to where he wants to be. So you never know. Maybe Stuart's not as safe a character as we think he is. It's every possibility. I think we're just going to have to watch this space and see what happens with Stuart. I think it'd be a shame to lose Stuart, because I think the transformation that he had was quite amazing in the fact that it actually worked. You know, I think that it would be very easy to sort of look at a character like Stuart and think, how did he go from that to that? Like, that's impossible. That doesn't work at all. And yet, weirdly, it did work, didn't it? It did kind of like, and the fact that then Rainie came along and you put them together, and actually you've got this genius couple that really, really worked together. But maybe the writing is on the wall for them because of what we said. Maybe Parenthood will make them too normal to be giving them more sorts of crazy storylines. So, I mean, I hope they're both safe for the future, because I like them both, and I like them as a couple, and I quite like this mad little arrangement with them in the funeral parlour. But I don't know. We'll see. Let us know in the comment section below, amidst all your sympathy towards Alex's plight, what you think the future for the Highways is, and do you think that they have a future on the show? Do you think that they might become too normal if they have a baby? Let us know in the comment section below, or on our social media pages, with the details that we will give you at the end of the show.
Perfect. Right then. One last story then, and it was a big goodbye as well this week, where the Taylors have basically been falling apart from the news of Grey from last week. Karen and Mitch have had loads of arguments, blaming one another throughout the week for what they had done. Keegan is frustrated and upset that he didn't see what Grey was doing, manipulating him, giving him money for his van so he could start the business, but also he didn't see the abuse he was giving to Chantel. Despite all the sympathy from most of the residents on the square, Suki kind of stepped in and started blaming Keegan that her son, Karat, was able to spot something that no one else was able to spot, and is upset also because he has potentially got prison time, and she doesn't want to lose yet another family member to prison, because obviously there's Jags and her own husband, who are both doing time, or one of them's doing time, the other one sadly died in prison. Tiff returned this week as well to be not only an alibi but also to comfort Keegan, which ultimately led to another Julius theme, and the first Julius theme on the brand new Albert Square set. So, I mean, what a week for Zack Morris this week. I mean, Zack Morris
was amazing.
A powerhouse, and I think if and I know we say all the awards, but if we were going to say all the awards for a storyline,
all the awards
this week, Zack Morris, 100% all the awards.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, I have to say, the Taylors this week were... I've really enjoyed the Taylors this week, and it's nice to see them sort of proving that they as a family can do the hardcore stuff, despite the fact that there's barely any of them left at this stage. And now Keegan's gone, it's literally just kind of Karen. All the kids are gone now, essentially. It's just Karen, Mitch and Bailey left now. So let's hope that Bernie returning will actually kind of build that up a bit more. But no, I thought it was brilliant. I have to say, I will say this now, I struggled with the notion that Keegan would leave his mum at this stage, if I'm honest. I realise that you've got to write these exits in when an actor says, I'm off, you've got to sort of, it has to be done. And I guess it's sort of, like, it worked that, Tiff came back, that felt right, the fact that they sort of rectified the whole mess with Liam. Although, again, I'm struggling with the notion of, so Liam lives with Tiff in Germany, right? And they live with Ricky and Cindy. So, are you telling me that Keegan has left his grieving mother to go live with the man that tried to wreck his marriage? That doesn't quite ring true for me, I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
That
it was funny, wasn't it? Because it got revealed
that's just me.
To Tiff. Yeah, it got revealed to Tiff that Keegan hadn't actually received the letter. And so you'd think that Tiff would be pretty, upset that she's now going back to the man who tried to break up her and Keegan, and bringing Keegan in tow. So yeah, perhaps they're looking for a new place. But I was pleased that Liam wasn't even mentioned, was he, this week? So I thought to myself, good. Yeah. Let's never mention that turn again. If he was to come back, let's bring back the Liam that we remembered before, the one we had.
But apart from that sort of slight story oddity, I thought it was a great exit. Is that now two Julia's themes Maisie Smith managed to wrangle out the show before she went? Because she got one when she exited herself, didn't she? So that's not bad going. How many characters have had two Julia's themes? That list can't be that long, surely. I think even Stacey managed to get two Julia's themes, and she leaves all the time. Let us know if anyone other than Tiffany has been given two Julia's themes. I'd be interested to know that. So from here on in, for the Taylors, because it seems Mitch and Karen have sort of, because there was a lot of accusations being thrown around this week. There was a lot of sort of anger, they basically went through all the stages of grief, didn't they? Sort of sadness, anger, denial, etc., etc., etc. Keegan, was basically furious about the fact that this van that he's owned has, basically been bought with blood money, bought with Grey's money, so he didn't want to have anything to do with that. So he set fire to it in the middle of the square, as you do. Perfectly sort of reasonable way of dealing with the situation. I'll set fire to it.
Arson.
I do.
Weekly
arson, yeah, effectively. Oh, see now, but the problem is what this led us into was Jack. And DI Jack kind of coming in trying to investigate. Thank God Callum hasn't been policing this week, because honest to God. Because Jack's not much better, really, is he? Sort of walked in and said, right, does anyone see that? I'm glad they didn't even bother trying to faff around with any sort of CCTV. If they could just establish, that there are no CCTV cameras in Walford whatsoever, that would be fine, because then we'd never have to have this problem. All right, but sure, you've got the whole thing of, so what? No cameras got. But that's the issue that we're always going to have with soaps. Because I suppose if CCTV was as reliable as it always is supposed to be, storylines would be dramatically cut all the time in soaps, wouldn't they? But yeah, it was sort of like he was basically kind of coming into the going. Did anyone see anything? Did they? Anyone at all? Can anyone give me anything? Give me a bone, please. Anybody? No. And the only person that really had seen anything, which I thought was, at the time, I kind of thought Jada had wandered into the wrong scene. When she appeared in the Minute Mark's doorway, when Keegan had set fire to his van and just sort of stood there looking shocked. I was like, why is Jada there of all people? Like, did the actor just sort of go, oh, sorry, this is my scene, I'll just walk out again. But it turns out that there was a little bit of relevance to it, because it was essentially the characters of Walford all sort of rallying around and giving the Taylors sort of the love and care that they deserved in the situation. So yeah, that was nice, and I thought all the Taylors gave great performances this week, and all the sort of the way that the grief was written between them and the anger and the arguments, I thought was really, really well done, I have to say. So yeah, that's Keegan's gone. Are you going to miss Keegan?
I am, because I just see so much potential that they could have done. But then I liked Keegan and Tiff as a couple on the square, because I said before I like seeing young people suffer. So this young couple on the square I thought was relatable for a younger audience. So it could have been, so I thought it was relatable for a younger audience, and they were able to maybe write stories that, you know, the BBC Three generation would maybe be more interested in viewing. So I think that they've kind of lost potentially a good couple there. But I completely understand both the actors wanting to move on. It's very difficult for a young actor to kind of want to be on a soap nowadays. You know, gone are the days of Adam Woodyats and Letitia Deans that kind of had longevity. Nowadays, they kind of want to go to Hollywood, or they want to do bigger dramas and bits and pieces like that. And then maybe one day they could perhaps then return to the square and do the soap another day. So it'd be great if we to see them again in the future. But I mean, I just think they need to look at getting some more younger actors on the show, and just kind of have stories where which are written like young people do things. You know, there's not to do a repeat of TikTok and Jada dancing in the park, or whatever, because that was just nonsense. That was just absolute nonsense. We should talk quickly also about Suki and her being very upset this week, because no one seems to care for what's happening to Karat at the moment, and the fact that he's in prison for a crime that basically was a kind of like a merciless thing that he did kind of to protect other people. You can kind of understand her pain that she's now been told that by her solicitor that in future, you know, he could get prison time for this. Yet another one of her children and her family going
to prison
down for something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. I'm sure Kirat will get out of it somehow, because Kirat's too good to lose, essentially. So I don't think he's going to stay there for long. What I do want to ask you briefly is, talking of Suki's kids being in prison, are we ever going to go back to the storyline of the fact that Ben was responsible for Jags' death? Is that ever going to be revisited? Because that felt like it was a really big sort of war rivalry waiting to happen, and a big explosion reveal waiting to happen, and then it's just sort of faded away, and we've never ever had it revealed. And I think it would be a really, especially now, you know, the Mitchells and the Panasars are in business with one another now, essentially. You know, Kirat and Ben working together. So maybe Kirat's going to discover something about Ben in prison. Again, that's another person that's kind of in prison at the moment with Phil. You know, so how many different prisons are there around in London where, like, all these different men are sort of being put in different prisons? Which one's Kirat in at the moment? So maybe Kirat is going to discover something about that whilst he is inside, and then be released, and then it's all going to be revealed that way. Who knows? Because I would quite like that to be revisited, because that was that story. The idea of that really excited me, that there was going to be some massive war between the Mitchells and the Panasars, and then it sort of just faded away, so we never got it. So I would like to see that, please, EastEnders. So get writing. Yeah. I have requested it, so that means it has to happen.
That's interesting, actually, and I had myself forgotten about that too. So to bring that back up would be interesting, because there was that tension between Suki and Ben this week as well. So perhaps it is going to rise back to the top of the story plots, and they'll talk about it again. Completely forgot about that. So that would be really interesting, and I suppose it would tie in with Ben's depression story, maybe, if he was to be reminded the fact that, you know, what ultimately Jags' death is part responsible for himself. Interesting. Right, so indeed. I think we got through that, didn't we? So again, apologies to the listeners who had to listen. Almost done. I did get an email this week that I do want to read out to you guys to hear your opinions, and also Rob's opinion on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
This is the part of the show where we read out your comments that you sent to us on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook group, or you sent to us on our email addresses. All the details of these will be given to you at the end of the show, or if you're watching us on YouTube, at the bottom of the screen. And this week we got an email from Mustafa, Hi guys, I just wanted to give my input on this week's episodes. Finally, we have aftermath on something. Dare I say it, it almost, but not entirely, makes up for no aftermath after Chantel's death with the amount of drama this week. Best week of episodes in a long time. The intense scenes with the Taylors really heightened this week's episodes. Also, I've seen our dear Kate Oates has been accredited for this week, and the top writers at EE, e.g. Katie Douglas and Pete Lawson, have brought in their views for their episodes. Can't be a coincidence, can it really? Hands down to Zack Morris, Lorraine Stanley, Linda Henry, and the actor who plays Mitch. Phenomenal acting this week. So a few things that I just want to pull up on. Obviously, it has been a great week. Yes, we've already talked about the fact that this is probably the most aftermath we've seen in years. I said on Twitter, like we were lucky that if something big and a big event had happened or a big week had happened on EastEnders for the past few years, we'd be lucky to even have like a soundbite from the following episode. So to have a week's worth, potentially a week's worth of this was just great and exactly what the show needed and is known for. Executive producer credit was at the end Kate Oates. So Jon Sen has stepped down now, and it's Kate Oates. So she's kind of doing the in-betweeny bit. Now, I know that Ben and I were kind of like very much like, oh, hello, standards creeping to increase a little bit here. You kind of counter that argument with, it's literally been 30 minutes. You can't just start saying, oh, look, the show's now far, far better. So do you think we're being a bit unfair?
Look, what I will say is, if you remember our conversation during the episode that we did when it was announced that Jon Sen was stepping down and Chris Crenshaw was taking over, our little news podcast that we did, and I said exactly, and you're going to find that people immediately will say, "Oh, you can tell he's left. You can tell he's left," and that is exactly what has happened. All right, I struggle. I'm sorry, but I struggle massively to believe that just because in that first week, when Jon Sen's name was left the credits, that we're all saying, "Oh, well, hasn't it massively improved now? Hasn't it massively improved?" I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. All right, he's only been gone a week, and it followed what was like a very strong big week beforehand. So naturally, there was going to be some level of aftermath from it in some way at some point. So for all you know, this could have been planned. I just think that it's a bit unfair. It doesn't wash with me, and I'm sorry. I think it's a bit unfair to be kind of throwing Jon Sen's name and work out of the window to say, well, that was all rubbish. Look at what it should have been in the first week. If while Kate Oates' name is on the screen as senior executive producer in the place where Jon Sen's name was in the credits, and it is flawless from here on in, then I will roll over and say, well, all right, maybe you had a point. But I'm sorry, I don't believe that we can judge the quality difference on 1 week. I'm sorry, I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. And if I'm being perfectly brutally honest, I think that if Jon Sen's name had been on the credit list this week, then people who are saying all this would have found something to criticise.
One more thing they said on the news was that Adam Woodyap is rumoured to be back in negotiations for a contract to return to EastEnders. Again, obviously the rumours started kicking out again. The fact that it's not a coincidence that perhaps this is now being discussed literally the week after Jon Sen decided to leave. Do you think that could be something else? Did you think also other actors or writers might be returning?
Yeah, well, if June Brown and Jake would return in the next 2 weeks, then we'll know that something definitely went down. But, you never know. I think it's more possible. Some actors and some producers might just not, see eye to eye. There was rumours during the Sean O'Connor days that Steve McFadden stepped down because he didn't like the way that the show was going, and then came back after Sean O'Connor had left. So the thing is, the papers jump on these sorts of stories, especially with EastEnders. Corrie and Emmerdale seem to rarely get these sorts of stories in the press, but EastEnders, everyone loves jumping on these things for EastEnders. So maybe there's some truth in it, maybe there isn't. In all honesty, unless somebody comes forward and gives us an exclusive interview, feel free, by the way. We'll never know. It's a nice little. It's nice to keep the gossip mill going. It's nice for us to digest and gossip over, but we're never really going to know, are we? But we don't even. In fact, we don't even know if talk of Ian returning is even true. It feels like a natural sort of story to get out of this, doesn't it? Oh, because people have been talking about the fact that Ian's gone and that Adam Woodyard was in I'm a Celebrity and said that he's free, so it seemed to have officially left. So talk of Ian going back to EastEnders does seem to be a very easy story to write in terms of papers, doesn't it? Really, it's sort of if real life was a soap, that's the story that would come next. So you never know. I would quite like to see Ian back. It would fit. It's felt a bit weird Ian not being there. I'm not saying that Ian is sort of the be all and end all of EastEnders. The be all and end all of EastEnders. See what I did there? See what I did? Oh, wasted here. But it would be nice to see him back, and it would be nice to sort of have some form of conclusion to Carbonara Gate and see if they can fix the slight mess that story became. So do let us know in the comment section below what you want for the future. Are you looking forward to the notion of Ian being back? And do you believe that Jon Sen's name leaving the credits has been a blessing in disguise for the show with the quality of... Who do you agree with, essentially? Let us know in the comment section below. Contacting us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. Find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. Alex, well done. You made it. You made it through. It was a bit ropey at times. Halfway through this discussion, I stopped and said, are you sure you can do this, Alex? Are you sure that you're actually going to survive the next half an hour of us doing this? And Alex pushed through and said, and told me to stop nannying him, he said. Until next week, join us next Saturday. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you again to Alex. It's goodbye from me.
Him, me, everyone. Goodbye from forever. I'm going.
Goodbye.
I'm going to bed. Bye.